A son abandoned his 80-year-old father by a riverbank thinking he was a worthless burden. But he had no idea what his father was hiding, and what he would do next. Before I reveal this true story of the most perfect revenge where karma hits with absolute precision, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And if you believe that what goes around comes around, subscribe and hit that notification bell, because when you discover what this helpless father was secretly worth, and who he left it to, you'll understand why this is the most satisfying justice story ever told. The morning of March 3rd was unseasonably warm when Robert Chen, 48, drove his father William Chen, 80, toward the outskirts of Portland, Oregon. In the back seat were William's few belongings, a small suitcase, his medications, and a framed photograph of his late wife. "Where are we going, Robert?" William asked in Mandarin, his English having faded with age. "You said we were going to new care facility." "We are, Dad," Robert lied smoothly, also in Mandarin. "It's just a bit far. Outside the city. Quieter. You'll like it." William nodded, trusting his son completely. He was 80 years old, suffering from advancing dementia, increasingly frail, and completely dependent on Robert for everything. Robert felt his stomach twist with guilt, but pushed it down. He'd been through this rationalization 1,000 times in the past 2 weeks. He couldn't afford his father anymore. 6 months ago, William had moved in with Robert after a fall that left him unable to live independently. Robert's wife, Jennifer, had initially supported the decision. "He's your father. Family takes care of family." But 6 months of caregiving had destroyed their lives. William needed help bathing, dressing, eating. He wondered at night. He became agitated and confused. He required constant supervision. Robert had taken leave from his job as an accountant, unpaid leave that had stretched from 2 weeks to 2 months to 6 months. His savings were depleted. His marriage was crumbling. "I can't do this anymore," Jennifer had said 3 weeks ago. "Your father needs professional care. 24-hour nursing. Memory care facility. Something. Those places cost $9,000 a month. We don't have that." "Then apply for Medicaid. Veterans benefits. Something." "But Robert, if this continues, I'm taking the kids and leaving. I love you. But I can't watch our family destroy itself." Robert had tried. He'd spent weeks navigating bureaucracy, filling out forms, making calls. Medicaid had a 6-month waiting period. The VA had programs, but with eligibility requirements his father didn't quite meet. The affordable facilities had 2-year waiting lists or were nightmares of neglect. And his father was deteriorating rapidly. Last week, William had left the stove on and nearly started a fire. 2 days ago, he'd wandered outside at 3 a.m. in his pajamas. A neighbor had found him 3 blocks away, confused and crying. "I can't keep him safe," Robert had told Jennifer. "And I can't afford to put him somewhere safe." That's when the dark thought had formed. What if he just left? Not permanently. Not to die. But somewhere public enough that someone would find him quickly. Someone would call social services. William would enter the state system, get the care he needed, and Robert would be free of the impossible burden. It was the rationalization of a desperate man. But Robert had convinced himself it was the only option. Now, driving to the Willamette River, Robert headed toward a specific location, a popular riverside park. Lots of morning joggers, dog walkers, people who would definitely find his father within an hour or two. He parked near the riverbank. "Let's take a walk, Dad. Get some fresh air before we get to the facility." William shuffled beside Robert, leaning heavily on his cane. They walked along the paved path for a few minutes, then Robert guided his father to a bench overlooking the river. "Sit here for a minute, Dad. Rest. I need to. I need to move the car to better parking." "Okay." William sat obediently, holding his cane, looking out at the river. Robert placed the small suitcase next to his father. Inside was a note with William's name, birthdate, and medical conditions. "Found wandering," would be the assumption. "I'll be right back," Robert said. "Don't be long," William replied in Mandarin. "I get confused in new places." "I know, Dad. I know." Robert walked back toward the parking lot. Each step felt heavier than the last. When he reached the car, he looked back. His father sat on the bench, small and frail, staring at the river. Alone. Robert got in the car, started the engine, and drove away, tears streaming down his face. William sat on the bench for 15 minutes, enjoying the sunshine and the sound of the river. Then he began to wonder, where was Robert? "Robert," he called, looking around. But the parking lot was empty. The path was empty. Confusion turned to worry. Had Robert forgotten him? Was he lost? William stood, gripping his cane, and tried to remember which direction they'd come from. But everything looked the same. The dementia made navigation impossible. He walked slowly along the path, calling for Robert in Mandarin. A jogger passed, not understanding. A woman with a dog smiled but kept moving. William's confusion was escalating to panic. Where was his son? Where was he supposed to go? Then he saw stairs leading down to the actual riverbank, below the paved path. Maybe Robert had gone down there? "Robert!" William called, carefully descending the stairs. The riverbank was muddy and uneven. William's cane sank into the soft ground. He lost his balance, stumbled, and fell hard onto the rocks near the water's edge. Pain shot through his hip, the same hip he'd broken 6 months ago. He tried to stand but couldn't. His cane had fallen into the shallow water, out of reach. "Help!" William called weakly in English. Then in Mandarin, "Save me!" But there was no one. The riverbank below the park was secluded, hidden from the main path by trees and vegetation. William lay on the cold rocks, his hips screaming in pain, unable to move, calling for a son who was already miles away. What William didn't know was that he wasn't alone. About 50 yards downstream, living under the Morrison Bridge in a makeshift camp, was a man named James "Jimmy" Patterson, 62 years old, homeless for the past 4 years. Jimmy had been a contractor once, owned his own small business, had a house, a family. Then the 2008 recession hit. He lost his business, lost his house. His wife left, taking their daughter. He spiraled into depression and alcohol. Now he lived under bridges, survived on odd jobs and the kindness of charity organizations, and tried to stay invisible to authorities who periodically swept homeless camps. Jimmy was gathering his belongings. The city had posted notice that this camp would be cleared in 48 hours, when he heard it. Someone calling for help in a language he didn't understand, but the distress was universal. He followed the sound, and found William Chen lying on the rocks, clearly injured, unable to move. Hey, you okay?" Jimmy rushed over, kneeling beside the elderly man. William looked up at the stranger, unshaven, wearing layers of worn clothing, smelling of river water and old smoke, and felt fear spike through his confusion. "Please," William said in broken English. "Help. Son. Robert. Lost." Jimmy assessed quickly. Elderly man, probably mid-70s or 80s, appears to have fallen, possible hip injury, confused, possibly abandoned based on the suitcase he could see up on the bench above. "Okay, sir, I'm going to help you. Can you move?" William tried and cried out in pain. "Right. Don't move. I'm going to call for help." Jimmy pulled out a battered cell phone, a basic prepaid phone he kept charged at the library. He dialed 911. "Yeah, I found an elderly man by the Willamette River, near Morrison Bridge. He's fallen, possibly broken hip, needs immediate assistance." "No, I'm not the family. I found him." While they waited for the ambulance, Jimmy did something unexpected. He took off his outer jacket, the warmest layer he owned, and tucked it around William. "You're going to be okay," Jimmy said, even though William probably couldn't understand much English. "Help is coming." William looked at this homeless stranger who had stopped to help him, who was giving him his own jacket, and began to cry. Not from pain. From the contrast. His own son had left him alone, and a stranger with nothing had stopped to help. The ambulance arrived within 12 minutes. Paramedics carefully loaded William onto a stretcher. They found the suitcase with the note. "Looks like someone left him here," one paramedic said quietly. "Probably family who couldn't handle him anymore." "That's the third one this month," the other replied grimly. They turned to Jimmy. "You're the one who called?" "Yeah. Found him on the rocks. He'd fallen. You probably saved his life. If he'd been out here much longer in his condition." Jimmy shrugged. "Just did what anyone would do." But the paramedic shook his head. "You'd be surprised how many people wouldn't." As the ambulance pulled away, Jimmy stood on the riverbank, now without his warmest jacket, watching them go. He looked at the suitcase they'd left behind, too much for them to carry with the patient. Inside he found medications, some clothes, and a framed photograph of an Asian couple on their wedding day. Young, happy, full of hope. Jimmy carefully repacked the suitcase and carried it with him. If that old man survived, he'd want this photograph of his wife. What Jimmy didn't know was that this encounter, this simple act of human decency, was about to change both their lives in ways neither could imagine. Because William Chen wasn't just any abandoned elderly man. He was about to do something that would expose his son's betrayal, shame an entire community, and teach a profound lesson about dignity, revenge, and redemption. At Oregon Health and Science University Hospital, William Chen was rushed into emergency care. The diagnosis was quick: fractured hip, dehydration, early-stage hypothermia, and significant confusion consistent with moderate to advanced dementia. But he was alive. Dr. Sarah Kim, the attending physician in the ER, reviewed his case with growing concern. Elderly Chinese man, approximately 80 years old, found alone and injured by the river. Has dementia. Suitcase with medications but no family contact information. Someone left him there, a nurse said. That's the third elder abandonment case this month. Call social services and the police, Dr. Kim ordered. This is criminal. Detective Marcus Freeman, 45, of the Portland Police Bureau's Elder Abuse Unit, arrived at the hospital 2 hours later. He'd been working elder abuse cases for 8 years, ever since his own grandfather had been neglected in a care facility. These cases hit him personally. Always had, always would. "Tell me what we know," he said to Dr. Kim. "William Chin, 80 years old. Found by the Willamette River with fractured hip. Has moderate dementia. Can communicate but is often confused. Someone left him there with just a suitcase." The man who found him, a homeless individual named James Patterson, called 911 and stayed until the ambulance arrived. "Where's the patient now?" "Stable. Post-surgery for the hip fracture. But detective, there's something you should know. When we were treating him, during a lucid moment, he told the nurse his son's name, Robert Chen. He said Robert brought him there and was getting the car, but never came back." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. So not a case of wandering off. Deliberate abandonment. That's what it looks like. "Can I speak with him?" "Yes, but his lucidity comes and goes. Be patient." In room 412, William Chen lay in the hospital bed, looking small and fragile. His eyes were closed, but he opened them when Marcus entered. "Mr. Chen? I'm Detective Freeman. I'm here to help you. Do you understand English?" "Little bit," William replied, his accent heavy. "My son, Robert. Where? I'm trying to find him. Can you tell me what happened?" William's face scrunched in concentration, fighting through the fog of dementia and medication. "Robert, he say we go to place. Care place. We drive. We stop by river. He say wait. But he not come back." "Did Robert say anything else?" He say, I'll be right back. But..." William's eyes filled with tears. "He leave me. How long have you lived with Robert?" 6 months. Since I fall. Cannot live alone anymore. Do you know Robert's address? Phone number?" William tried to remember but couldn't. The dementia had stolen those details. I not remember. I sorry." "It's okay, Mr. Chen. We'll find him. You rest." As Marcus left the room, he was already planning the investigation. They had a first name, Robert Chen. Father's name, William Chin, age 80. Portland area. It wouldn't be hard to find him. It took Detective Freeman less than 4 hours. Cross-referencing hospital records from William's previous fall 6 months ago, combined with property records and DMV database, he found Robert Chen, 48, accountant, living in a suburb of Portland with wife Jennifer Chen and 2 children. Marcus drove to the address with his partner, Detective Lisa Wong. When Robert opened the door and saw 2 police detectives, his face went white. "Robert Chen." "Yes. I'm Detective Freeman. This is Detective Wong. We need to talk about your father, William Chen." Robert's legs felt weak. Is he alive?" "He's alive. No thanks to you. May we come in?" Inside, Jennifer heard the conversation and came to the door, confused. "What's going on?" "Your husband abandoned his father at the Willamette River yesterday morning," Marcus said bluntly. "William fell and fractured his hip. He was found by a homeless man who called 911. He could have died." Jennifer turned to Robert, horror on her face. "You said you took him to a facility. You said he was checked in and settling." I was going to. I thought someone would find him quickly." "Mr. Chin, you're under arrest for criminal abandonment of a vulnerable adult. You have the right to remain silent." As Marcus read Robert his rights, Jennifer was backing away from her husband, hand over her mouth. "Oh my God! Oh my God, Robert! What did you do?" The neighbors were coming out, watching. The children, home from school, stood in the doorway, watching their father being handcuffed. And Robert Chen realized the full magnitude of what he'd done. At the police station, Robert confessed everything. The financial strain, the impossible burden of care, Jennifer's ultimatum, the failed attempts to find affordable care, the desperate decision to abandon his father. "I wasn't trying to kill him," Robert insisted. "I swear. I left him in a busy park. I thought someone would find him within an hour, call social services, and he'd get the care he needed. I didn't know he'd wander down to the riverbank. I didn't know he'd fall." "But you knew he had dementia," Marcus said coldly. "You knew he couldn't navigate alone. You knew he'd be confused and scared. And you left him anyway." "I didn't have a choice." "There are always choices, Mr. Chen. You chose the one that put your father's life in danger to save yourself inconvenience." "It wasn't inconvenience. It was financial ruin. It was my marriage ending. It was your father. The man who raised you. Who provided for you. Who changed your diapers when you were helpless. And when he became helpless, you threw him away like garbage." Robert broke down sobbing. While Robert sat in a cell, something else was happening at the hospital. Jimmy Patterson, the homeless man who had found William, had returned. He'd gathered courage to come back, carrying William's suitcase. "I'm here to see William Chen," he told the front desk. "I'm the one who found him. I have his things." The desk called up to the floor. Dr. Kim came down personally. "Mr. Patterson? I'm Dr. Kim. Thank you for what you did. You saved his life. Just did what was right. I wanted to bring his stuff. There's a photo in here. Looked important." Dr. Kim looked at this homeless man who had given his jacket to a stranger and now had walked miles back to the hospital to return a suitcase. "Mr. Patterson, would you like to see him? I think he'd want to thank you." Jimmy hesitated. "I don't know if that's... I'm not exactly." "You're the man who saved his life. That's all that matters." In room 412, William was awake and lucid. When Jimmy walked in with the suitcase, William's face lit up with recognition. You helped me." Jimmy set the suitcase down. "Yeah, I found you by the river. Glad you're okay." William reached out and grabbed Jimmy's hand. In Mandarin, then broken English, "Thank you. Thank you. You saved my life. It's okay. Anyone would have done it." "No." William's eyes were clear and sharp, one of those moments of clarity that sometimes broke through the dementia. "Not anyone. My son leave me there. But you stop. You help." Jimmy didn't know what to say to that. "You give me jacket," William continued. "You call ambulance. You stranger. You have nothing. But you give anyway." "It's just what you do," Jimmy said quietly. "You see someone in trouble, you help." William squeezed his hand. "What's your name?" "Jimmy. Jimmy Patterson." "Jimmy." William nodded. Good man, Jimmy." After Jimmy left, William lay in his hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. His mind was clearer than it had been in months. Sometimes trauma and anger burned through the fog of dementia temporarily. His son had abandoned him. A homeless stranger had saved him. And William Chen, despite his dementia, understood very clearly what had happened. His son thought he was just a burden to be discarded. His son thought he was helpless, powerless, finished. His son was about to learn how wrong he was. Because William Chen had something his son didn't know about. Something that changed everything. And he was about to use it in the most devastating way possible. 3 days after his surgery, William Chen had a visitor. Linda Chong, a lawyer from the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, a nonprofit that provided legal services to elderly Asian immigrants. She'd read about William's case in the news and had come to offer help. "Mr. Chen, I'm here to make sure you're protected. To make sure you understand your rights. And to help you decide what you want to do about your son." William, during one of his increasingly frequent lucid periods, looked at her with sharp eyes. "I want lawyer. Good lawyer. I need to do something." "What do you need to do?" "I need to change will. Need to make sure Robert not get anything." Linda pulled out her notepad. "You have a will?" "Yes. And I have." William paused, then in Mandarin, explained something complex. Linda, who was fluent, listened with growing surprise. "Mr. Chen, are you certain about these assets?" "Yes. Robert not know. His mother and we not tell him. We save everything. We invest. We have property in Taiwan. And..." He explained more. Linda's eyes widened. "Mr. Chen, you're telling me you have assets worth $2,300,000. Maybe more now. I not check in long time." Linda sat back, stunned. "And your son doesn't know?" "We immigrant. We come from Taiwan in 1975. We work hard. We save. We not spend. We buy rental property in Taiwan, very valuable now. We invest in stocks. But we live simple. We not tell Robert because we want him to work hard, not wait for inheritance." "Does anyone know about this?" "My wife knew. She died 3 years ago. Now only me. And my old accountant in Taiwan, he manage properties. And banker here." William gave her names and contact information. Linda was processing this. "Mr. Chen, your son abandoned you, thinking you were a financial burden with nothing to offer. And actually, you're a multi-millionaire." "Yes. And now you want to cut him out of your will completely?" "Yes. He throw me away like garbage. Like I nothing. He think I just burden. But I not burden. I survivor. I work hard my whole life. I save. I provide for family. And when I need help, my own son leave me to die." William's clarity was laser-focused now. "I want to make new will. I want Robert to get nothing. Zero. And I want him to know why. What do you want to do with your estate?" William thought for a moment. Then, "Half to my grandchildren, his children. In trust. They get when they 25 years old. Not before. They good kids. Not their fault their father is." He searched for the English word. "Coward. And the other half? I want to give to Jimmy. The man who saved me. He homeless. He have nothing. He give me his jacket. He call ambulance. He come back with my suitcase. He good man. Better man than my son. Linda was quiet for a long moment. Mr. Chen, this is a significant decision. I need to make sure you understand the implications and that you're making this decision with sound mind. I understand. My mind. It come and go. I know that. But right now, my mind very clear. And I know what I want. Robert abandoned me. So I abandon him. This will destroy your relationship with him. Already destroyed. He leave me by river. What relationship left? Linda nodded slowly. I'll need to bring in a psychiatrist to evaluate your capacity to make legal decisions. Given your dementia diagnosis, we need to establish that you understand what you're doing. I understand. I know I have dementia. I know I forget things. But I not forget my son leave me to die. And I not forget Jimmy save my life. Over the next week, Linda worked to establish William's legal capacity. A psychiatrist evaluated him and determined that despite his dementia, he had sufficient lucid intervals and understanding to make testamentary decisions, especially given how clear and consistent he was about his reasoning. Linda contacted the accountant in Taiwan and the banker in Oregon. She verified everything William had said. Properties in Taiwan now worth approximately $1.8 million, investment accounts totaling $400,000, and various other assets. William Chen, the burden his son had thrown away, was worth over $2.3 million. This is going to be one of the most dramatic will readings I've ever seen, Linda told her colleague. Meanwhile, Robert Chen was out on bail, facing criminal charges, and trying to salvage what was left of his life. Jennifer had taken the kids and moved in with her sister. She'd filed for separation. His job was gone. The firm had terminated him immediately after his arrest. His name was in all the local news. Local man arrested for abandoning elderly father. His community, especially the Asian American community in Portland, had turned against him. In Chinese culture, filial piety was sacred. What Robert had done was considered one of the worst possible betrayals. He'd tried to visit his father at the hospital, but William had refused to see him. The hospital had put a note in William's file: patient does not wish to see son Robert Chen. Do not allow visitation. Robert had sent letters, tried calling, begged the nurses to tell his father he was sorry. Nothing worked. His lawyer, a public defender named Tom Stevens, had advised him to plead guilty. The evidence is overwhelming. You confessed. Your best bet is to show remorse, argue extreme emotional distress, and hope for a lighter sentence. Robert felt his life disintegrating. He'd tried to solve one problem and had created a catastrophe. 6 weeks after the abandonment, Robert received notice. You are required to attend the reading of the last will and testament of William Chen, should Mr. Chen become incapacitated or deceased. Your presence is requested at the offices of Chong and Associates. Robert was confused. His father wasn't dead. Why was he being called to a will reading? His lawyer explained, sometimes people update their wills and want relevant parties to be aware, especially if they're elderly or ill. Your father is probably making arrangements. Robert felt a small spark of hope. Maybe his father was forgiving him? Maybe this was his father's way of reaching out? He had no idea what was actually coming. The meeting was set for March 28, almost 4 weeks after the abandonment. William had been released from the hospital and was now in a skilled nursing facility, his care fully covered by a combination of his own assets, now that Linda had accessed them, and Medicare. Present at the meeting, Linda Chong, William's attorney, Robert Chen, a social worker from the state, and via video call, William Chen himself from the nursing facility. Linda began, "We're here today because Mr. William Chen has created a new will and testament, superseding all previous wills. He wants his son Robert to be aware of the changes." Robert nodded, still hoping this was some kind of reconciliation. Linda continued, "First, I need to establish for the record, Mr. Chen, are you of sound mind and making these decisions freely?" On the video screen, William sat in his wheelchair, eyes clear. "Yes. I understand everything. And you've chosen to execute this new will. Why? Because my son Robert abandoned me. He leave me by river to die. He think I am burden with no value. He is wrong. I have value. And now he will learn." Robert felt ice forming in his stomach. Linda opened the will document. The last will and testament of William Chen. "I, William Chen, being of sound mind during the execution of this document, do hereby revoke all previous wills and declare this to be my final will." She read through the standard legal language, then reached the crucial part. Distribution of assets. At the time of creating this will, my estate is valued at approximately $2.3 million, including real estate properties in Taiwan, investment accounts, and other assets. Robert's jaw dropped. "What? That's impossible. Dad never had that kind of money." On the screen, William smiled grimly. "You never ask. You never care. You only see burden." Linda continued reading, "I direct that my assets be distributed as follows. $1 million in trust for my grandson Michael Chen, to be released to him upon his 25th birthday. $1 million in trust for my granddaughter Sophie Chen, to be released to her upon her 25th birthday." That's the kid's education covered, and then some, Robert thought, still in shock. The remaining assets, approximately $300,000, I bequeath to James, Jimmy Patterson, the homeless man who saved my life when my son abandoned me. To my son Robert Chen, I leave nothing. $0. Zero property. Zero inheritance of any kind. The room was silent. Robert stared at the screen. "Dad, you can't. I'm your son. You abandon your father. So your father abandoned you." William's English was clear, his meaning unmistakable. "Dad, please, I made a mistake. I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do. You have choice. Many choice. You choose throw me away. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry not change what you did. Sorry not heal broken hip. Sorry not erase terror I feel, lying by river, calling for son who not come." Robert was crying now. "Please, Dad. Give me another chance." William's face was hard. "I give you life. I raise you. I work 2 jobs to send you to college. When you are helpless baby, I change diaper. I feed you. I protect you. Then I am old, I need help, you throw me away. You think I have no value. Now you learn, I have great value. And you get none of it." Linda interjected, "Mr. Chen, the will is legally valid. Your father has the right to distribute his assets as he sees fit. The meeting is concluded." Robert sat in stunned silence as the video call ended. His father, the burden he'd abandoned, was a multi-millionaire. And Robert would get nothing. Not $1. The karma was devastating and absolute. The news of William Chen's will spread quickly, first through the legal community, then through local media, then nationally. Abandoned father worth $2.30 million cuts son out of will. Homeless man who saved abandoned senior to inherit $300,000. Perfect karma. Son who dumped burden, father learns dad was multimillionaire. The story captured the public imagination completely. It had everything: betrayal, justice, redemption, and a twist that felt like moral universe correcting itself. For Robert Chen, the fallout was catastrophic. His criminal case proceeded. With his guilty plea, he was sentenced to 18 months in county jail, 3 years of probation, and permanent prohibition from contact with his father unless William specifically requested it. His wife Jennifer finalized the divorce. "I can't forgive what you did to your father. And I can't be married to someone capable of that." His children, 12-year-old Michael and 9-year-old Sophie, were told age-appropriate versions of what their father had done. They were confused, hurt, angry. "Why did you leave Grandpa?" Michael asked during a supervised visit before Robert's incarceration. "I made a terrible mistake," Robert said, crying. "I thought I was solving a problem. But I was just being selfish and cruel." "Mom says Grandpa is rich and you didn't know." "That's true. So you left him because you thought he was poor and useless?" The brutal honesty of children. "Yes. And I was wrong. So wrong." "I don't want to see you anymore," Michael said. At 12, he was old enough to make that choice. Sophie, younger and still confused, just cried. And perhaps cruelest of all, Robert knew his children would inherit over $1 million each from the grandfather he'd abandoned. They'd be financially secure for life. But he, the son, would get nothing. The irony was devastating. While Robert's life imploded, Jimmy Patterson was dealing with a different kind of crisis. Sudden wealth he had no idea how to handle. Linda Chong had tracked Jimmy down at the shelter where he'd been staying. "Mr. Patterson, I need to talk to you about William Chen's will." "Is he okay? Did something happen?" "He's fine. But he's made you a beneficiary in his will. A significant beneficiary." Jimmy had assumed maybe a few $1,000s, a thank you gesture. When Linda explained it was $300,000, he nearly passed out. That's not possible. I just did what anyone would do." "Not anyone. His own son abandoned him. You saved him. And now he wants to change your life like you changed his." Jimmy sat in stunned silence. $300,000. It was more money than he'd made in his entire working life combined. "There's no catch?" he asked suspiciously. "No catch. When Mr. Chen passes, and given his age and health, that could be years still, this money becomes yours. In the meantime, Mr. Chen has also established a small fund for you. $20,000 available immediately to help you get back on your feet." Jimmy began to cry. "I don't deserve this." "Mr. Chen believes you do. And frankly, after what you did, I agree." Over the next several months, Jimmy's transformation was remarkable. With Linda's help and guidance from a financial advisor, Jimmy used the immediate $20,000 wisely. Rented a small studio apartment, $800 per month. Bought basic furniture and necessities, got new clothes for job interviews, paid for dental work he'd needed for years, enrolled in a program to get his contractor's license reinstated. The local media, fascinated by his story, followed his progress. Homeless hero rebuilds life after saving abandoned man. Job offers poured in. A construction company offered him a position. We need good men with your work ethic and character. But Jimmy did something unexpected. He turned down the high-paying offers. Instead, he started a small non-profit, Second Chance Construction. I want to hire other homeless people, he explained to a reporter. People who've fallen on hard times but want to rebuild their lives. I'll train them, employ them, give them the second chance I got. It was risky. It was ambitious. But Jimmy had learned something during his years on the streets. There were hundreds of men and women like him, skilled, hard-working, but trapped in circumstances they couldn't escape alone. Mr. Chen gave me more than money, Jimmy said. He gave me purpose. Now I want to pass that on. Jimmy also did something else. He visited William regularly. Every Sunday, Jimmy would come to the nursing facility and spend an hour with William. Sometimes they'd talk. Sometimes they'd just sit together in comfortable silence. Sometimes William didn't remember who Jimmy was. The dementia was progressing. But on good days, William would grip Jimmy's hand and say, "Good man. You good man, Jimmy." They formed an unlikely friendship, the 80-year-old Chinese immigrant and the 62-year-old homeless veteran. You know what's funny? Jimmy said one day. Your son thought you were worthless. And I thought I was worthless. Turns out we were both valuable all along. William smiled. We survive. That make us valuable. Meanwhile, the legal case had sparked broader conversation about elder abandonment. Oregon passed new legislation, Williams Law, that increased penalties for elder abandonment and created emergency funds to help families in crisis before they reached the breaking point. If Robert Chen had known these resources existed, a state representative said, maybe he wouldn't have made the choice he did. We need to prevent these tragedies before they happen. Support groups for caregivers of dementia patients expanded. The Asian Pacific American Network created specific programs for immigrant families struggling with elder care issues. William's case became a catalyst for systemic change. 1 year after the abandonment, Robert Chen was released from jail after serving 12 months. He was 49 years old, divorced, estranged from his children, with a criminal record and no career prospects. He'd spent his time in jail and therapy, attending support groups, trying to understand how he'd reached the point where abandoning his father seemed like a solution. I was in survival mode, he told his therapist. I couldn't see past the immediate crisis. I couldn't see that I had options. I just panicked. Do you think your father will ever forgive you? I don't know. I don't even know if I'd forgive me if I were him. Robert had written letters to his father. Dozens of them. William had received them but never responded. Linda had told Robert, your father reads your letters. But he's not ready to respond. Maybe he never will be. You have to accept that. Can I see him? Just once. He still has the no-contact order in place. Unless he lifts it, no. Robert found work washing dishes at a restaurant. It was humbling. He'd been an accountant, had owned a home, had status. Now he was 49, living in a small apartment, doing manual labor for minimum wage. But slowly, he was rebuilding something. Not his old life. That was gone forever. But maybe a new life. One built on humility instead of desperation. He attended support groups for people who'd committed elder abuse. Hi, I'm Robert. I abandoned my father when he needed me most. Saying it out loud, owning it, was part of the process. He volunteered at a senior center on weekends. I can't undo what I did to my father. But maybe I can help other seniors. Maybe I can be the son to someone else that I wasn't to him. It was inadequate. It was too late for William. But it was something. 2 years after the abandonment, William's health was declining. The dementia was advancing to late stages. He was now mostly nonverbal, spending most days in his wheelchair, drifting between sleep and waking. But Jimmy still visited every Sunday. One Sunday, Linda was there too. She had news. "Mr. Chen, I need to tell you something. Your son Robert has been trying to see you for 2 years. He's written you letters. He's changed his life. He volunteers with seniors. He's in therapy. He's trying to be better." William, in a rare moment of clarity, looked at her. "He wants forgiveness. I think he wants a chance to apologize face to face. To tell you he understands what he did was unforgivable. If unforgivable, why apologize? Because maybe saying it matters. Even if you don't forgive him." William was quiet for a long time. Then, "Bring him. One time. I will see him one time." Linda arranged it for the following week. The meeting was scheduled for Sunday afternoon, February 15th, nearly 2 years after the abandonment. Robert Chen arrived at Willow Creek Nursing Facility at exactly 2 p.m., as instructed. His hands trembled as he signed in at the front desk. Linda Chong met him in the lobby. "Mr. Chen, before you see your father, I need to set some ground rules." "Anything. I'll do anything. Your father has agreed to see you for 30 minutes. Only 30 minutes. He's having a good day cognitively, but his energy is limited. If he asks you to leave at any point, you leave immediately. Understood?" "Yes." "Jimmy Patterson will also be present. Your father wants him there." Robert nodded. Of course. The homeless man who'd saved his father's life. The man who'd done what Robert should have done. And finally, your father has not changed his will. This meeting is not about reconciliation or forgiveness. It's about closure. Do you understand the difference? I understand. Room 217 was quiet when they entered. William sat in his wheelchair by the window, looking frail and small. Jimmy Patterson sat nearby in a regular chair, wearing clean clothes, no longer the homeless man from 2 years ago but still the same kind eyes. William turned when he heard them enter, his eyes fixed on Robert. For a long moment, father and son just looked at each other. "Hello, Ba," Robert said in Mandarin, using the familiar term for father. "Thank you for seeing me." William gestured to a chair. "Sit." Robert sat, hands clasped tightly in his lap. "Ba, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I needed you to hear me say this face to face. I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry for what I did to you." William said nothing, just watched. "I was desperate and scared, and I convinced myself I had no options. But I did have options. I just didn't want to face them. So I took the coward's way out. I abandoned you like you were trash. Like your life had no value." Robert's voice broke. "But your life has always had value. You worked so hard to give me opportunities. You sacrificed everything for our family. And when you needed me, I failed you completely. Yes, William said simply. You fail. I know. And I've spent 2 years trying to understand how I became the kind of person who could do that. I've been in therapy. I've volunteered with seniors. I've tried to be better. Why you tell me this? Because I want you to know that even if you can never forgive me, I'm not making excuses. I own what I did. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be the son I should have been. William was quiet. Then he turned to Jimmy. Tell him. Jimmy shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Chen, I don't know if this is. Tell him, William repeated firmly. Jimmy looked at Robert. Your father wanted you to know something. When I found him that day by the river, after the ambulance left, I found his suitcase. Inside was a photo, his wedding photo with your mother. He was holding on to that photo when he was hurt and scared and alone. Robert closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face. And every week when I visit, Jimmy continued, he has me bring that photo to his room. And he looks at it. And sometimes he cries. Not because of the physical pain. Because the son he raised abandoned him. That's the pain that doesn't heal. I know, Robert whispered. I know. William spoke again, his English slow but clear. You say you sorry. You say you try to be better. But sorry not change past. Sorry not give me back the time I lie on rocks, calling for son who not come. Sorry not heal broken trust. I know, Ba. I know. But, William continued, and Robert looked up in surprise. You still my son. I not forgive. Maybe never forgive. But you still my blood. And your children, Michael and Sophie, they good kids. They deserve grandfather, even if from distance. What are you saying? I saying, I lift no contact order. You can write me. You can visit, 1 time per month, if I feeling well enough. But this not forgiveness. This not reconciliation. This just acknowledgement that you my son, and life too short to carry hate forever. Robert began sobbing. Thank you, Ba. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank Jimmy. He asked me to give you this chance. He say everyone deserve chance to be better. I not agree. But Jimmy saved my life. So I listened to him. Robert turned to Jimmy. Why? Why would you advocate for me after what I did? Jimmy was quiet for a moment. Because I've been the guy everyone gave up on. I've been the one people crossed the street to avoid. And someone gave me a chance to be better. Your father gave me that chance. So I'm passing it forward. The 30 minutes ended. Robert stood to leave. Ba, can I hug you? Just once. William considered. Then nodded slightly. Robert knelt beside the wheelchair and carefully embraced his father. William didn't hug back, but he didn't pull away either. I'll be better, Robert whispered in Mandarin. I promise I'll spend every day trying to be better. We see, William replied. Time will tell. 6 months later. William Chen passed away peacefully in his sleep at age 82. Jimmy Patterson was with him. It happened to be Sunday, their regular visiting day. The funeral was held at a Chinese Buddhist temple in Portland. Hundreds attended, members of the Asian American community, people whose lives had been touched by William's story, advocates for elder rights, and staff from Willow Creek who had cared for him. Robert was allowed to attend. He sat in the back, not with family but alone, understanding his place. The eulogy was given by Linda Chong. William Chen came to America with nothing but hope. He built a life through hard work and sacrifice. He survived abandonment by his own son. And in his final years, he taught us all profound lessons about dignity, justice, and the complicated nature of forgiveness. He showed us that even the most vulnerable among us have value. That wealth isn't always visible. That sometimes the poorest in material goods are the richest in character. And he showed us that family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's a stranger who stops to help when everyone else walks by. Jimmy spoke briefly. Mr. Chen saved my life as much as I saved his. He saw value in me when I saw none in myself. He gave me not just money but purpose. I'll miss our Sunday visits. I'll miss his wisdom. But I'll carry forward what he taught me. Everyone deserves dignity. Everyone deserves a chance. Everyone has value. The will was executed as written. Michael and Sophie each received $1 million in trust, to be released at age 25. They were 14 and 11 now, old enough to understand that their grandfather had provided for their futures even after their father had abandoned him. Jimmy Patterson received $300,000. He immediately donated $50,000 to elder care organizations and used the rest to expand Second Chance Construction, which now employed 15 formerly homeless individuals. Robert received nothing, exactly as William had specified. But there was one surprise, a sealed letter to be given to Robert after William's death. Linda handed it to him after the funeral. Your father wrote this 6 months ago, during one of his lucid periods. He wanted you to have it after he was gone. Robert opened it with shaking hands. Robert, if you reading this, I am gone. I hope my death was peaceful. I hope Jimmy was with me. He is good friend. I write this to tell you something important. I not forgive you for abandoning me. That hurt too deep. But I understand you. You were desperate man who made terrible choice. We all capable of terrible choices when we are desperate. I give you nothing in my will. This is consequence. This is justice. You throw away father like he have no value, you lose inheritance. This is fair. But I want you to know, your children will be taken care of. Michael and Sophie will have money for college, for starting their lives. I do this not for you, but for them. They are innocent. And I want you to know, in my last months, when you visit, when you write letters, I see you trying. I not forgive, but I see effort. That worth something. Jimmy tell me that people can change. That redemption is possible. I not sure I believe this. But maybe you prove me wrong. Maybe you become good man after all. I lived long life. I survive many hard things. Being abandoned by my son was hardest. But I survived that too. And I die knowing I have value, I have dignity, and I make my own choices about my legacy. You lost inheritance in money. But you still have chance at inheritance in family. Be good father to Michael and Sophie. Be good man. That is inheritance I hope you claim. Maybe we meet again in next life. Maybe then you be better son. Bah. Robert read the letter 3 times. Then folded it carefully and put it in his pocket, next to his heart. 5 years later. Robert Chen, now 54, stood at his father's grave with his children. Michael, now 19 and in college, and Sophie, 16 and in high school. They visited every year on the anniversary of William's death. "Grandpa provided for our educations," Michael said, placing flowers on the grave. "Because of him, I'm studying engineering at Stanford with no debt. And I'll be able to go to any college I want," Sophie added. "He took care of us, even after he was gone." "He was a better man than I was," Robert said quietly. "A better man than I deserved." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Michael said, "Dad, I've been meaning to tell you. I'm volunteering at an elder care facility near campus. Helping with activities, just spending time with the residents." "Me too," Sophie added. "I volunteer at a nursing home on Saturdays. I read to the residents who don't have visitors." Robert felt tears prick his eyes. "Why?" "Because Grandpa taught us that elders have value," Michael said. "That they deserve dignity and care. And because we want to honor his memory by being the kind of people he'd be proud of." "Also," Sophie said more quietly, "we wanted to understand what Grandpa went through. What it feels like to be old and need help. So we'd never make the choice you made." It was brutal honesty. But Robert had earned it. That's wonderful," he said. "Your grandfather would be so proud." They visited Jimmy next. He'd established a memorial bench in a nearby park where he and William used to sit during visits. Jimmy, now 67, was there waiting for them. Second Chance Construction had grown into a successful business. He'd helped over 100 formerly homeless people get back on their feet. "Hey, Chin family," Jimmy greeted them warmly. "Hey, Uncle Jimmy," Sophie said. They'd adopted him as honorary family. They sat on William's memorial bench together, this unlikely family created by tragedy and redemption. "Your grandfather was something special," Jimmy told the kids. "He took the worst thing that happened to him and turned it into something that changed lives. That's real strength." "Do you think he ever really forgave my dad?" Michael asked. Jimmy considered carefully. "I think he moved past needing to forgive or not forgive. He just accepted what happened and chose to focus on the future, on you kids, on making sure something good came from something terrible." "That's very wise," Robert said. "I learned it from your father. He taught me that we're all more than our worst moments. That we all deserve dignity. And that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't punishment, it's living well and making sure the hurt doesn't continue to the next generation." Epilogue. 10 years after the abandonment. The William Chen Foundation for Elder Dignity was established by Michael Chen, now 24, using part of his inheritance. The foundation provided emergency assistance to families in crisis caring for elderly relatives, preventing the kind of desperate circumstances that had led to William's abandonment. Sophie Chen, 21, was studying geriatric social work. "I want to help families before they reach breaking point. I want to make sure no one else's grandfather gets abandoned." Robert Chen, 59, worked as a counselor for family caregivers. "I share my story, the worst thing I ever did, to help others avoid making the same mistake. It's not redemption. It's just service." And Jimmy Patterson continued running Second Chance Construction, having personally helped over 300 formerly homeless individuals restart their lives. "Mr. Chen gave me more than money," Jimmy would tell new hires. "He gave me back my dignity, my purpose, my belief that I mattered. That's what I'm trying to give to you." William Chen's grave had a simple headstone. William Chen, 1940 to 2022. Immigrant. Father. Survivor. He taught us that everyone has value, and that dignity can never be abandoned, only recognized or ignored. And below that, added later, from the son who failed him. I'm sorry, Ba. I'm trying to be better. Your legacy lives in your grandchildren, and in every life your story changed. Because sometimes betrayal leads to devastation, but sometimes it also leads to transformation. Not for the betrayer to be easily forgiven, but for the ripples of pain to create waves of change that help others. William Chen never forgave his son, but his story, and his strategic calculated response, prevented countless other abandonments and helped reshape eldercare in Oregon and beyond. The homeless man he enriched created a business that gave second chances to hundreds. The grandchildren he provided for became advocates for the very elders their father had failed. And the son who betrayed him spent the rest of his life trying to be worthy of a forgiveness he'd never receive. It wasn't a happy ending, but it was a meaningful one. And sometimes, that's more valuable than forgiveness ever could be.